Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Before we start off tonight's story, I would just like to say a huge thank you to all of you for liking, commenting and sharing, and also a big hello to all of our new subscribers this week. Guys, we're currently sitting at 979 subscribers. I cannot believe how quick things have progressed, and I cannot thank you guys enough for all your support and kind words. We have an update from our boots on the ground researcher, Daryl, over at Midwest Dogman Sightings and Research. Quite a different story for you tonight, guys. Quite a funny one and interesting. And me and Daryl both agree we believe this may have been a juvenile dogman. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's story. I'd like to entitle Car Door 1, Dogman 0. Let's get straight into that. DMT. I do not have permission to give the names of the two individuals, nor the location of the encounter. I can say it was southeast Michigan, so for now, the two men will be called Frank and Joe. The two men have been neighbours for 30 or so years, and this encounter took place in 2009, December 23rd to be exact. Frank had a late start putting out Christmas lights that year. He had been working a lot of overtime, and his wife had been getting on at him to get the lights up finally. The family were coming over the next day to spend Christmas with them, and it was around 1 in the afternoon, and he knew he did not have a lot of daylight left. You see, it got dark around 5 p.m, and he did not want to be up at the crack of dawn putting out decorations and putting up lights. He went over to Joe's house to ask him if he would help him with the lights. As the men worked, Frank stated he got this creepy feeling that they were being watched. Joe was on the ladder hanging a strand of lights, and Frank was in the front yard near the road putting up Santa's reindeer. The men lived on a dead-end road with only 4 other houses on that road. These houses were fairly close together and were all on the same side of the street. Across the street were woods, thick woods, so thick that even in the winter months, with no overgrowth or leaves on the trees, seeing 10 yards within that forest would have been difficult. Frank said he brushed off the uneasy feeling. He walked up to Joe and asked if he wanted a cup of coffee. Joe agreed. So, Frank went into the house, got them each a cup, and as he walked out to the front door, he noticed what he assumed to be a really large dark brown dog cross the road, and it appeared to be looking directly at Joe. Its head was looking in his direction and walking as if it had no care in the world. Frank told Joe, "Look at that dog." Joe turned round and said, "Whose dog is that? I don't remember seeing it before." The creature still had its focus on the two men. Frank stated it didn't take its eye off of us. Then he said the oddest thing happened. The dog was not paying attention to anything but the two men and ended up walking right into a door face first on a parked vehicle. People parked their vehicles on the road to shovel out their driveways. Joe said he yelled out, "Stupid dog." He then said the damn thing stood up on its back legs with its hands pushed on top of the car, as if the car was just in its way. Setting off the alarm, I asked him about the hands. "Are you sure they were not paws?" His reply was, "Yes, hands. Dogs don't have hands." I stated, he said, "I know." It was the weirdest thing I have ever seen. I asked him what happened next. They both said the neighbour came running out of the house to see why his alarm was going off. He took one look at the creature and ran back into the house. I asked him, "What did you two do then?" Frank said, let's get a closer look at this. And as the men got closer, the creature's ears went back, so they stopped. Not knowing if it was going to attack, Frank yelled out, "You better get out of here." He said the creature looked at them and then slowly tilted its head, like, "What are you saying?" Then they yelled again, "Get out of here." The creature was still standing on its hind legs, its left hand still on the top of the vehicle, looking at the two men, tilting its head from side to side, then raising its snout and sniffing the air. Then it slowly turned back towards the woods and walked off on two legs. Frank asked Joe how a dog could do that. Joe said that wasn't any dog. The both then went to the neighbour's house and knocked on the door. No one would come to the door, so the two men were flabbergasted. They went back to setting up the Christmas lights and decorations. After they completed this, they each went into their homes. But that was not the end of this ordeal. Later that night, around 7:30 p.m, Frank heard a commotion out in his front yard. He looked out of the front window and turned on the front porch light. There he was again. He had tore Santa's reindeer out and was shredding it. Frank then said he opened the front door to holler at it, and as he did so, the creature looked at him with what Frank could only describe as a "oh shit" expression and started to run off back to the woods bipedally. When Frank said it didn't get too far, its back leg was tangled in the extension cord, and he said when he tried to run, it fell on its rear end as it frantically tried to get untangled. Joe then came out of his front porch and yelled, "I told you to get!" Frank said it jerked its leg and pulled the cord out of the receptacle it was plugged into, and it gave Frank one last look as it ran off on its back two legs, shaking its right leg, trying to still free itself. Just before it got to the wood line, it tripped on the cord again and landed on its rear again. Then it frantically tried to get the cord untangled with its hands. It finally ran back into the woods, and there was no further incidents that night, and none since. Frank did say he found his extension cord the following morning. Half was in the road and half was in the woods, snapped in two pieces. So, sitting down with the two men, I asked them, "What do you think it was?" Both had no answer. They did not know. I asked about how tall it was on its back legs. They said no taller than 6 feet. Frank called the neighbour whose car was hit, and after I arrived, he asked if he would be willing to come and talk with me. The neighbour would not talk to me and stated he had nothing to say. It would have been nice to get his perspective, but no luck. I asked did anyone call the police. They both said, "And tell them what?" That we saw a big dog walking on two legs and it vandalised my property. Are you kidding? I asked, "Have you seen it since?" They both said no. But the neighbour at the end of the street had some cats come up missing last year, and every once in a while guys would find dead deer all messed up in the woods whilst hunting, totally mutilated. I asked messed up how so. Their reply was, body parts would be missing, a hind quarter here, a front leg there, and sometimes a complete head would be gone. That was all I could get from the two men, and I believed every word the men said about their encounter. They seemed to be very genuine and to the point. At no time did their story differ, and both kept eye contact when telling their story. Both said they saw what they saw, although they did say that they were at that time afraid. It was comical to watch. I hope the listeners enjoy the encounter. It's not the scary run of your life encounter, but nevertheless, it is an encounter. Thanks very much, Daryl. Wow. Thank you, Daryl, for that very, very interesting encounter. Fantastic work on gathering all those details and painting that in a picture for us in that story. Wonderful, wonderful encounter. As ever, folks, please do let us know in the comments below. Please do like and share. And remember, guys, be safe, not sorry.